Greetings, everyone. This is just another day at the office. And today, on the 18th of January, we're both tying Renegades. We need to top off our inventory in that area.
What I do with the small slice is a little bit different than what I do with the larger one. As you can see, I've pretty well mangled this, so I'm going to dress it back a little bit and see if I can get it to lay better. So I'll describe to you what I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this guy and tie him off and finish him later because he's fighting me. So I'll walk you through what I do on these smaller ones. I had to change a little bit when I went from a 14 to a 16, and these are 16s. Because it gets a little tight when you try to tie the hackle on the way you do with a larger one. So this is my 16, and just like always, I start my wrap about where I'm going to end the body, give or take a few wraps. It's not real critical on this fly. I go back to the bend and trim off the excess. Got this mylar that I'm using, and it's two-sided, and I'm letting the silver side show. So as contrary to what you might think, I put the silver side tight against the back of the fly or the shank and tie it down. And then theoretically, if I start my wraps, it should work out. So we're just going to do a tag down here, just kind of around the bend a bit. This is not an Atlantic salmon fly, so I'm probably not going to fuss with it like you would at an Atlantic salmon fly when I do the tag. Besides that, it's really small. See? If you think you can't see it, can you imagine what it's like for the tire to see exactly that those wraps are perfect? Take a little wrap around the base of that and then come up and tie it off. And the reason I do that is it keeps that tag from loosening up a little bit on me. And they will do that. Trim off the excess, and I leave a little bunch there. It doesn't really matter. Now, I got some pre-sized hackle here, so I'll grab my brown hackle, and so far I'm doing it exactly the same. Just remember that you leave a little bit of bare stem so that first wrap doesn't cause the fibers to stick backwards. You can get a nice flat first wrap. And on this one, I've cut my wraps down to about 3. That'll depend a little bit on the hackle you're using, how heavy the barbules are on it.
I don't want to stop you right now, Gretchen. You're using the silver rib, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I just switched to silver then.
Okay, yeah. I suppose we should
I'm
be.
not a rib, a tag.
I suppose we should be consistent.
Yeah, good idea.
Now I'm going to just get a piece of peacock. When you tie this on, you need to be certain that the rachis or the stem is pointing forward. And that way, you're not having that stem go over your previous wrap. The wraps forward will cover up the stem. Kind of fumbled that up, but I think you know what I mean. Now, here's where I really had to make some changes. Instead of wrapping that peacock, I'm going to tie on my hackle, and I had to get a new hackle. That other one was just getting too hard to deal with. I don't know why, but so I'm going to get plenty of bare stem here. Now, I don't want two butt ends of hackle ending up in my head on this small fly. Well, obviously, I'm going to have the butt end of the peacock, and so instead, and I would have this end, and then as I wrap the hackle, I'd have the butt end of the hackle, and that's just too much bulk. So what I'm going to do is I take, and remember, just like on the back, we want some bare stem on our first wrap. So you need to have plenty of bare stem. And I'm going to hold it here like this and take two wraps to kind of hold it in place. Then I'm going to take a look and make sure I've got some bare stem. I pulled out a little bit more. There we go. Now wrap back. Need to trim off a little bit of that stem. I got too much there. Well. Okay. This is one time that long hackle's kind of a pain. Now I'm going to wrap my peacock. Pry it off. About 3 turns. And now I want my thread in front of my hackle. Okay. So 1, 3 turns of hackle. Now I kind of pull my thread back towards the bend as I wrap over. So I'm getting that tight against there. Then I'm going to trim it. Hold back the hackle and wrap over the ends. And now I've stopped wrapping, tied up against that hackle so that I can do a good whip finish, each wrap going forward towards the eye. And I can see right now I'm going to have a, maybe not. I thought that one was going to give me trouble, but it doesn't look like it's going to. Now I'll just glue it. And there's a Renegade. How are you doing over there?
I've been tying larger sizes up until this, and this is like trying to tie a gnat after tying freight trains. So I'm just trying to get the feel of a different size fly.
Are you trying my method on that?
I tried it in the first time out. It was at the butt end of the feather, and I broke the stem. So I had to recuperate in midstream, and I'll try it on the next go around.
Well, now see, I've got a similar thing. I've got a fly now that I have finished up to the point of, and I was wrapping the hackle, that white hackle, and having trouble with it.
Yeah.
So I tied it off because I broke the hackle eventually, and I tied it off so that I could go through a complete fly online. So now I got to go back and see if I can fix this fly, or if it's a complete loss. Once in a while, you just have to say, well, I lost that one. Not very often, but every once in a while. So I've got my thread back on now. I'll put some hackle on this fly, hopefully.
What are you using for glue?
I'm using Griffin's.
Okay, well, I'm out of that, but I've got some of this Healthy Hoof. I'll use it on mine, and you can use that. They're both about they're very similar.
Very similar, as long as they're nice and runny.
And for those of you that don't know, Healthy Hoof is available on Amazon in 1/2 ounce containers. It's fairly reasonable. It's a product of the horse industry, but the horse people buy it in multiple gallon containers because it's actually horse hoof fingernail polish kind of stuff. But anyway.
Well, I was able to save that fly.
Oh, good.
In fact, for some reason, the hackle went on so easy that
Sometimes when they're ready to be born, they're just ready to be born, you know?
I was rushing the hatch.
Yeah. Anyway.
I do have a little bit of stem showing, and I don't know when I do my whip finish if it's going to cover that up.
You know, I forgot to test our microphone. So you folks here, you're going to get to hear a microphone test right in midstream, but well, that's the way it goes. This is all live. So it's like I said, it's a day at work. Let's see, test the microphone. Testing, 1, 2.
Testing, 1, 2.
Yeah. We're good to go. It's well, like I said, when you're live at work, you get what comes down the line, and including microphone tests. One of the things that we have to do, it kind of slows us down a tad, is actually all the stuff that goes with the Zoom studio before we actually start tying. Gretchen had 4 or 5 flies done in the time that it took me to get started today, because I was getting all the cameras and stuff started. Anyway, I'm adding my tinsel, and this is a new product that I'm playing with here. And let me hold it up. Gretchen got it at Joann Fabrics, and it's a metallic tinsel, flat tinsel, but it acts like thread. Not quite sure exactly what it is about it that's different, but this one's much finer, and it really goes on smooth on these size 18s, where even the fine Danville tinsel gets a little bit big for these smaller 18s and 20s when we start doing that. But I see I'm catching the hook here. I want to undo that. There we go. That's looking better.
Well, are you leaving that on the bobbin?
No.
You cut off a chunk.
Yeah, I'm just cutting off a chunk and trying to wrap it by hand. We'll see. I'll try it both ways. I'll see if I can actually do it through a bobbin. That's a good idea. I hadn't even thought about that. But that might be an option. And
I don't know why. I mean, I could try a bobbin on this tinsel, but I
think that's more of a metallic tinsel, where I think this other stuff is
more like a thread.
Yeah, it's more like thread, or maybe it's, I don't know. Don't know exactly what it's to be used for, because it's you got it at Joann's, and it would seem like it's for sewing, but
well, I think they use it in embroidery machines.
Oh, sure.
However, I've tried metallics in my machine, and I'm not very skilled at it. I think I need some lessons in that. I think you need special needles in your machine, and I have done some successfully, and it looks really cool. And you can have a little highlight of metallic.
Wanted you to notice there that when I trim my hackle off, I stripped it for the next fly. Just before I lay it down, it's already done, already stripped.
You always do that, I've noticed.
Yeah.
And I don't. I should start doing that. I keep losing my tinsel.
I have to comment on especially on these really small peacock, that the Dutch Bachman method of keeping the thread hanging right at the wrap point on the peacock surely, well, it sure makes it a heck of a lot easier process, doesn't it?
Well, I've been finding on these smaller ones, I don't like doing that. I don't know why. So I've been just wrapping my hackle. So, we don't always do things the same. I guess that's
Yeah, that's one of the things about tying flies is it's the end result is the biggest concern. And not always do you take the same road to get there. It's kind of like driving from Boise, Idaho to Phoenix, Arizona. There's several different roads you can take to get there, but you'll still end up in the same spot.
for some reason I struggled with my tinsel on this one. Just
You struggle with what, dear?
my tinsel, it just doesn't want to go on.
Some days it just doesn't want to be born.
I think I've got it. It doesn't look too bad. I was down to the last little bit of my piece that I cut off, and so I was having trouble holding on to it. I should have just, oh boy, I don't know. I don't like that. I'm going to redo my tinsel. I just can't.
If it's not working, it's always better to take it off and do it over rather than doing a lousy job.
Yeah, I need to cut off a new piece. Let's see, I've got to find the end of this sucker. We put rubber bands around our tinsel, and sometimes because of that, I struggle a little bit to find the end, but there it is, I think, right there. Oh, no. Oh, there it is. I see it. Because this stuff will just go flying off the spool.
Yeah, it's kind of sitting there under tension, just waiting to go spring all over the place.
Well, I've got this so wrapped up in the boy, did I do a good job? There we go. I'm finally getting some tinsel out.
Do you start your thread at the back or do you wrap all the way from the front
What do you mean?
when you start the fly?
I start in my normal place, right where the body
Well,
ends.
I've been trying it at the back to see whether I like it any better, and I think I'm going to go back to just putting a thread base over the whole thing.
Yeah, it just,
Oops. Better put
there's a reason we do that thread base. And when you
Yep.
don't do it, you remember the reason, don't you?
Yeah, you sure do.
Another thing, I was trying to tie my too short a stub of tinsel on for a while, trying to save tinsel, which makes no sense at all.
It's inexpensive compared to your time wasted on.
But it just wasn't working. I guess out of boredom, I keep trying new things just to kind of keep life interesting over here, I guess.
Start over. Like you, I was trying to make a piece of tinsel work, and it was all kinkly and curly instead of the way I wanted it. And anyway, I'll go back and start over with a better piece of tinsel.
When we're doing a demonstration, we always make sure that we've got, our materials are just right. When you're tying commercially, sometimes you try to use something you shouldn't. It's a whole different process.
Normally, when we're tying commercial, we don't have 1,000 eyes watching us out there from Facebook and beyond. And
we just tie.
We just tie flies, and sometimes you try to make things make do and it works, and sometimes it doesn't, and you just say, oh darn, and you just take another drink of coffee and go on about your business. I want you to notice that at the back that I'm leaving plenty of bare stems so that my first turns of hackle won't be sticking back in the pointing in the direction that my scissors are right now. If your hackle does that, just have a little bit bare stem so that your hackle starts its rotations standing straight up rather than pointing back.
I just did an absolutely perfect start of this hackle. Look at that on the screen.
Oh, wow. Good job.
That doesn't always look perfect, but that one just came out and easy. It just wanted to be there.
Yeah, sometimes it just works out. I always have trouble picking these hackles up. I want you to notice that I'm sticking them into a hackle pliers. By the way, these hackle pliers are fine. We bought a bunch of them and they didn't prove to hold hackle worth a darn, but they're really good for holding materials, so you can, because it's a lot easier to pick up that hackle thing and hackle plier than it is to pick up the hackle that's just laying flat on the table.
I have a question about hackle, since you're my hackle expert. This white hackle, is it just this particular saddle, or is this white hackle, is it often softer than brown? Is it difficult for them to get stiffer white hackle?
I can't answer you that.
I mean, this is a beautiful number 2 saddle I took this off of, but it just isn't quite as, I don't know, not quite as, it's just different than the brown. And I've noticed that before.
Well, I'm tying with I'll check this feather. It looks like it's just as spiky and nice as the brown. I mean, at least mine is.
Well, have you wrapped it yet?
Yeah, this will be the 3rd fly.
Oh, okay. It's just my skill level, I guess.
I wouldn't say that that's the problem, dear.
There we go. We're really lucky. We have some pretty good peacock. We don't have to use that strung stuff. I had a friend whose brother-in-law had peacocks here in Boise. So she would, when they mowed, he would collect them and she'd bring them to me. But his parents, the parents lived just 2 doors down from us, and they don't anymore. So I haven't seen her in a while, but we still have plenty of hackle.
We still have quite a bit because we had a bundle, probably, if you were to measure around in circumference, it was a couple foot around. So we had a good supply.
Yeah. Yeah, she lives in Lewiston, so she just doesn't come down here since the parents have passed.
Right, let me get my
Idaho is still a
out here.
small state. I had no idea when we bought this house that her parents were right down the road. So that was kind of cool. One day I just saw her in the yard and I'm like, what are you doing here?
All right. Kind of starting to get the groove after a couple flies.
Yeah, it took me a
Usually
while.
don't have that problem, but like I said, I went from a size 8 to an 18, and Jesus, I struggled just a little bit with that. Now I'm going to
Commercially, we just step down one size at a time. We just don't take those big jumps. So that is kind of different. Well, I've actually got, let's see, a dozen done, but I think I'm going to do a couple extra.
Well, a 16 is kind of a go-to size for a lot of people on the
Renegade. It's
on the Renegade. That is just a dynamite size. Can imitate so many different things. It's it imitates a lot, and yet, no, it's not imitates, it suggests a lot of different things.
Time for a drink of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna grab a slug of it here in just a minute myself.
We have sunshine today here in Boise, but the forecast is 90% chance of snow tonight.
Well, I
So
guess
our
we'll be
little-
shoveling tomorrow rather than doing a fly tying gig on
Yeah,
Facebook, huh?
yeah.
Well, that goes with the territory too. I mean, even fly tyers have got to shovel snow.
I don't know how many more years I'm going to be out there with you shoveling snow. That's hard on the old back for
Yeah.
both of us.
I got a feather that keeps turning on me, so I'm going to have to retie it. I'll strip off some new stem here. And now we'll give it a go.
Was that the brown or the wine?
It's the brown. I may have tied it in bad. I wasn't watching real close. Thinking about that slug of coffee rather than paying attention to what I should be paying attention to, probably.
Lots of times when we're tying is when we do our brainstorming.
Yeah, well, of course, it slows the tying down a bit, but I think we've written, what, 2 books that we brainstormed while we were tying flies, and we'd stop and take notes on a yellow pad. And
It's either that or when we're driving down the road.
yeah, we do that a lot too. We've probably written 4 or 5 books driving down the road.
But recently, though, we've been talking about our advice at the Vice, and we're going to be doing some of those tricks and ideas that we've done in Fly Tire magazine or on our Friday night. Going to do some short YouTube videos for people to look at.
Yeah, they don't have to go through a whole video looking for a particular tip or trick. It'll be there in a 2-minute shot that they can say, well, I want to learn how to do XYZ. Well, we'll have a 2 to 5 minute video on XYZ.
So that's the kind of brainstorming we came up with that the other day when we were tying. But to brainstorm all of the tips and tricks would be hard to do when we're tying. But if you have a favorite that you want us to do on YouTube, you might send us an email. Have you started that list yet?
I've got a few things down on it and several more banging around in my brain, but they're, well, I've got a white hackle in my hand right now. I can't write it down.
I've got a brown hackle in my hand, so I'm no help.
You know how that is, huh? Yeah.
I'm not letting this one go because it's looking pretty good.
All right. There's another one.
Well, I've got about 3 little tag-ends of peacock laying here in front of me, left over from previous flies. So I'm going to put
See if you can nurse one out of it, huh?
I'm going to put a couple of them together. See what I can do with them.
I think I'm going to tie one more fly and then we'll hang it up for today. As far as this is just going to be boring as heck for you all watching in here. I'm still just totally amazed why anybody would want to watch somebody keep doing the same darn thing over and over and over. It's kind of like
John Kareff said you really couldn't see how we sometimes do a little different from fly to fly, and you really pick up techniques that we don't talk about. I kind of get it.
I suppose, well, John did a kind of a cool thing. I was watching, a couple days ago, and he wanted to see how many flies he could tie in the 30 minutes that his camera would stay on.
Ah,
So he tied several flies, and so that was 29 minutes of fly tying. And then he went on the timeline. When you're editing video, that you can adjust the timeline for how fast it plays back. And what he did is he had it play back at 600% faster. And boy, I tell you what, I wish I could tie that fast all the time like John was doing with the help of the video camera. My goodness, talk about making money. Whew. Anyway, so he took that 29 minutes and cooked it down into 5 minutes of tying flies. I think it was the Fat Albert. I don't remember. But anyway, it was one of those flies that takes a little bit of time to get all the material set into place and everything. And boy, I'll tell you what, he was flat smoking.
I just pulled my hackle out.
I'll get
It's
my round up
annoying.
here.
There we go. It's not that we don't make mistakes, it's how we recover from the mistakes that are
Yeah,
important.
that's a difference of a lot of practice at the vise. Shows you learn a lot of different ways to give a twist there and give a pull there to make up for a mistake. And there I just broke the hackle.
I just broke my hackle.
No, I tell you what, we are really teaching these people a lot of things that even commercial tires have trouble with. I mean, it's I'm kind of ashamed to say that we even break threads sometimes. Like I think I did it on a live presentation the other night, but
Well, I remember when we used to do those VHS videos.
oh God, yeah.
If you made a mistake, we kept it on there.
Well, that was back in the days when we didn't have an editing studio and couldn't afford it. And VHS editing studio was pretty spendy compared to a piece of software today that will do 50 times as much as all that hardware would do before. Anyway,
Yeah, the most famous one was when I burnt the fly up on screen.
yeah, anyway, the hackle went poof. We just left it in there. You'll have to buy all the videos though to find it, because I'm not going to tell you which one it was.
I hadn't been tying very long when we did those videos.
Well, you had been tying a long
Well,
time, but
I-
you'd been tying on a
Yeah,
rotary, on your dad's rotary vise
I'd been doing it
made out of a
different,
treadle sewing machine.
different kind of tying.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and we were doing different flies than I had.
yeah, for sure.
My dad tied quill wings, renegades. What was that one he used to do? Oh, I can't remember. But they were a lot different. And they had a lot bigger heads. We tied with sewing thread, I think is what it
Yeah,
was.
sewing thread and a treadle sewing machine to do it all. So it's
So what are you gonna do with the rest of your day today?
oh, I'm going to do some work on the next quick tips. I got to get some.
What are you gonna do for quick tips the next
Oh, I'm
one?
going to do a thing on, well, it's going to be a reel starter, and it'll be hook sizing and thread sizing.
Oh, okay. So it's not
Wow.
really a tip or a trick, it's just
It's
good
getting
information.
started. Now I've got a problem here, and I'm just going to show you a commercial tires trick that fixes it. I got a little spot. Maybe I can turn it so you can see it. Right there in the front, I got a little spot of white that I want to get rid of. And I'll take my black felt tip marker. Here, that took care of that. That little piece of white showing through the turns on my head. And what I wanted to do is make it look good and not have to add a whole lot of turns of thread. Well, that little touch of black felt tip marker took care of it for us. And this will be the last one, I guess.
How many did you get done?
I think I got 6. I don't know. I got to stop and count them. I haven't done it yet. It's 5 or 6. Well, anyway, there it is.
Oh, I just wanted to show you something before you do that.
What's
If
that?
I were just to take this and start wrapping it, the hackle would be facing in a direction I don't want it to be. So I'm going to bring it up and I kind of pull it towards the eye and I twist it down and around, back over. And now it's facing the right direction and I can start wrapping it.
Okay.
So one last hint before we go.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's it, folks. Remember to join us every Friday for Beattys Fly Tying Friday. But for now, thanks for joining us, and that's a wrap.